This is Smiles TV. Welcome to Smiles Television Talk Show. We have a dynamic broadcast for you today. I'm sitting with a gentleman from East St. Louis, Illinois, but guess what? This guy has gone on to become the general manager at Marriott International. You don't want to miss this broadcast. That's the first part of it. In the second half, we have a young lady from Chicago, Illinois, and she goes by the name of Ocean. And we're going to do a little spoken word. Remember, Jesus Christ was born of a virgin. He was crucified and buried, and he rose on the third day. Confess with your mouth that he is Lord. Believe in your heart that God has raised him from the dead, and thou shalt be saved. Stay tuned for more smiles. Tommie Van, the general manager at the Marriott International in Chicago, Illinois. We got a whole Chi-Town show for you today. Thank you, Tommie, for coming to Smiles TV Talk Show. It's so good to see you.
It's good to see you, and thank you for having me.
May I call you Butch?
Go right ahead.
And you know what? The audience doesn't know, but Butch, or Tommie Van, and I grew up together right next door to one another, and his nickname was Butch. He was one of the best tennis players in the state of Illinois. Now, he may not want to talk about that today, but I know that secret. But you know what? Just thinking back to our childhood and looking at you today, it's just amazing the things that God has done for all of us. And it's a blessing to have you here. Tell our audience a little bit about your background, because they need to know how you became the general manager at the Marriott International.
Well, before I became a general manager, or before I started with Marriott, I was a soil scientist for the USDA. And I was stationed in Decatur, Illinois, and my responsibility it's pretty much going out and sampling soils, describing them for the purposes of farmers getting tax credits, finding out if they were in floodplain zones, et cetera. Mm-hmm. And one thing that my mom and dad always told me is that if you can't give 110 to 120%, you're not in the field that you want to be in.
I remember when you left home and you were majoring in agriculture, and I thought that was so unique, first of all, for someone from my area. And but you made it work, and you did some things with it.
It was different, and it was a great experience based on the fact that I was the only African American in the field at that particular time. So there was no way that I could skip school because they knew I was there. So, but it was a great field, and I still do a lot of those things as I relate to my yard. But I'm happy with working with Marriott International. I started from the ground level with a degree, and my father was very upset. Whereas he says, all the money that we put into college, and you decided to quit working for the USDA and go into the hotel industry. But the biggest obstacle was that he had to overcome is that I was making $25,000 a year at the USDA. I took a job at $5.15 an hour.
Wait a minute, wait. Seriously. Okay, so with the USDA, you were making $25,000 a year.
That's
you didn't
correct.
like that field.
Didn't like it.
And so you decided, I want to do something different. I don't care what the money pays.
That's correct.
You know, and that's a good point right there. It's not all about the money.
That's right.
So at $5.15 an hour, what were you doing?
I was actually mopping floors.
You were mopping floors.
I started on the midnight shift, mopping floors, and my goal was to get my foot in the door and showcase my talents. And God was there with me, because you think about it, working midnight shift, I didn't see people in charge, and but they saw me. And I did that for about 6 months, and a gentleman came up to me one day as I was mopping the floor, and he says, I like your style. I like how you take care of business. He said, come see me in the morning. And I walked in, he says, I was looking at your file, you have a degree, we want to get you into our management and training program. I said, I would love to do that. And that's how I started my career. I went into the catering service division, responsible for the meeting room setups and et cetera. And this was a unique opportunity, because before me, they had 4 managers who wasn't successful in turning this department around. And I was able to turn the department around, and I was made the manager of the year, Living the Vision Award, and it took off from there. Later on, I became the banquet manager, responsible for the entire floor and the service. And when they offered me the job, I said, I really don't know anything about food. And his response to me is that, you know what, we can teach you the food, but you have a skill set that can't be taught. And that's what we call people skills.
Wow. Wow, and just thinking about that, because you were at the Marriott in St. Louis at the time,
correct.
right?
That's correct.
And even in our immediate area, I know for a fact that there are a couple of families that really helped you and supported you,
Yes.
and they were just giving back, and it really paid off. For example, the Galloway family. That's
Yes.
a well-known name
Yes.
in the East St. Louis community. Tell us a little bit about your connection with the Galloways.
Well, I call them mom and dad because they were a great family, and they're still a great family, and they look to me as their son. When I was 12 or 13, I was their paper boy, delivering papers to Sandy's Barbecue. And as I grew up, Marlon Galloway said, "Hey, you want a real job?" I said, "Well, I got a real job." And, No, I want to give you a real job working here. And I said, yeah. I started working there, and in that time frame, as I became a sophomore in high school, my mom was diagnosed with cancer. And Mr. Galloway and Miss Galloway met with my mother and said, "Don't worry about Tommie. We will take care of him." And I would say, my first year of college in September, my mom died of colon cancer. And from the 10th grade all the way up into now, they've always taken care of me. They helped me through college. They did everything that a parent would do, or parents would do while I was in school. And then as I graduated, they did what parents normally do with their kids. They helped me purchase my first home. So I am in debt to the Galloway family, because it was like the ram in the bush. They saw me, and they grabbed me, and they pretty much provided for me, and I definitely love the family. They're a great family.
No, that is so key. You're talking about someone who took you under their wings and helped you along the way. And do you think we are still doing that today, or do you see that happening any place?
I see it happening, but it's not being advertised as it was done in the past. We need to do more of it. And one thing I pretty much try and remember is that don't forget where you come from. Always remember that how you got there, somebody helped you.
That's right.
And that's my responsibility, is to always help others. And I've done that within the company. I'm a huge mentor. I go in and I offer my skills to those up and coming managers. And one thing I always tell them that, in this day and age, we want to move fast. We think everything should be given to us right away. And I always tell them it's very, very important that you go slow to go fast, because you want to be able to describe how you got there. When you go there too fast, you can't go back and say, here are the details, because you don't know how you got there. So I try and tell them to slow it down. It'll come to you, but the deal is the reason why it needs to be slowed down, so you'll know when you get to the point that you need to be in, you'll be able to instruct others on how you got there.
Wow, that's excellent.
Yes.
And another point I want to make, when we went to Chicago, Illinois, my son is a freshman at Columbia College, and you assisted us in accommodations at the Marriott residence in downtown Chicago.
Yes.
And they were just outstanding, and we are forever grateful for that. But when we went to check in, first we just were checking in, and then I said, we're friends with Tommie Van. Everybody jumped to attention. And they love you, though.
Yes.
They all respect you and love you. How did you nurture that?
I think it comes back from, it's all how God works. God put me in a position where he started me from the bottom end. So then I would be able to relate to each and every associate that I would come into contact. I would understand those scenarios or those situations that they were pretty much put up on. And I think that helped me out tremendously, because it's all about what Mr. Marriott says. He says, you take care of the associate, and turn the associate to take care of the guest, and the guest will come back. I think that's a key element in our industry, is don't forget who actually services your people. It's your associates, it's not you. So you've got to take care of them. And I am very high on associate engagement. There's nothing that I won't ask them to do that I won't do.
You told me, or they told me, that you actually handpicked every employee.
Yes, I did.
Every employee.
Yes, I did. And the reason behind that is because when you open up a hotel, you only get one chance to do it right. And it's like a general manager years ago told me, it's like a file cabinet. It's empty. You're the one who's going to put those files in there that's going to tell the story 10, 15, 20 years later. And my job is to go in here and select the right type of people. I wanted people who had fun, who I didn't have to pretty much say, I need you to smile. They came in smiling. And I interviewed each and every one of those associates, and that was my chore, is to go in and take care of them. And I would say we did a phenomenal job. Right now, we're sitting number 2 in associate satisfaction. We scored an 87.7, which normally when you open a hotel, you're in the low 70s.
Wow.
So that was huge. And we're in guest satisfaction. We're number 2 in the Western region. And hotels who opened similar times to ours, they're in like the low 60s. So we've done a great job of really fostering the atmosphere that I wanted. But more importantly, it's not me, it's them.
Wow. Tell us a little bit about the facility itself.
Well, the facility is it's a great hotel. It's the largest residence inn in the world.
In the world?
In the world.
Okay.
So normally when you see a residence inn, you're talking about 150 to 175 rooms, and that's it. This hotel has 381 rooms with 35 floors. It has 7,000 square feet of meeting space, full restaurant, 2 bars. So those things that you would normally see at a full-service Marriott, you'll see these at the Residence Inn. And when they were looking for a general manager, they were looking for a general manager who had full-service experience. And I had been a general manager at full-service Marriott properties on 3 occasions. And they came to me and asked me about the position, and I said, this is something that I want to do. And it was a great opportunity because the first hotel that I opened up the Renaissance Grand and Suites in St. Louis.
Okay.
And I said, I would love to open a hotel again because, again, you get the opportunity to build what you want to build. And I think we've been very successful.
Wow.
Very successful.
And you're in the loop. Give us your location.
We're on LaSalle and Madison, right in the heart of the financial district.
Wow,
Yes.
wow. And we'll be back.
Come on back.
But when you come back to Smiles.
Yes, I will.
Okay. You said that very quickly, and
Yes,
I'm
I
going
will.
to hold you to that. And we're about to go to our next section with a young lady from Chicago as well. Her name is Ocean. She does spoken word, and she also sings and everything. But prior to going to the next section, can you give our students, our youth, some words of wisdom?
The words of wisdom that I got a long time ago was, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth, and that's to speak less and listen more. Listen to what people are telling you. They have your best interests at hand. And also, go slow to go fast. And I'll guarantee you'll be successful. It's just like the East St. Louis Flyers, 8 championships. And by the way, congratulations.
That's right. That's
Yes.
right. Thank you. Thank you, Butch.
Thank you.
Mr. Van.
Thank you for having me.
Mr. General Manager. Thank you, and don't go away. We'll be right back with more Smiles. We're back, and you know what? I want to thank Angela Van for allowing her husband to come and chat with us. Angela, we love you and the kids, and thank you again. And right now, I'm sitting here with a young lady who does spoken word. You know, the history of music goes way back. I don't know if any of you remember this gentleman, and I didn't know him either, age-wise. However, Gil Scott-Heron, years ago, had music that was spoken word. And it changed over the years. And then you have your rap, right? And now we have poetry and music. And I'm sitting here with a young lady who goes by the name of Ocean. Lauren Ocean Ike, as a matter of fact. Lauren, thank you for coming to Smiles.
Thank you for having me.
And you know what? You have a beautiful smile.
Thank
and you
you.
have to keep smiling, okay? Because that's the name of our show, right? But Lauren is from Chicago, Illinois. I'm not going to tell all of her history because I want her to talk for herself. But how old are you, Lauren?
I'm 19.
You're 19 years old.
Yes.
And tell us about where you live.
Well, right now I'm currently residing in Atlanta because I attend Clark Atlanta University with a major in English, concentration in education, and a minor in music. And however, I was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois.
And we won't hold that against you, right? Because
Right.
we're from East St. Louis, Illinois, and a lot of times our sports teams end up going up to Chicago, and we're a small city compared to, and we won't tell you what happens. You know the rest of the story. But go ahead, tell us about Chicago.
Yeah, I'm from Chicago, the South Side. But a lot goes on in Chicago. People get their stereotypes about Chicago. People get their views from Chicago on the news and things like that.
And you know what? You're right, because when I watch the news, and I've been to Chicago, when I went to school in Bradley University, which is in Peoria, kind of close, most of my sorority sisters were from Chicago. And I didn't want to go because I was actually afraid. And that was back then. And so today, we hear all these stories. They even call it Chirac. Tell us the real deal.
Actually, the term Chirac is actually very offensive to Chicagoans. We actually go into defense mode when people use the word Chirac. However, it's pretty accurate. From the inside view, it's not just blatant crime. It's not just crime out of nowhere.
It's not random.
Yes, it does come from somewhere. In Chicago, I've noticed a lot of our crimes are over loyalty, because in Chicago we take loyalty to heart. It's just something that we do. So majority of we do have a lot of crime that happens, but majority of it is for a reason. It's not just because we just feel like doing it. It's not really a Chirac area. It's just that everywhere is bad. Dangerous everywhere. You can go into a good neighborhood, no matter what state you're in, something's gonna happen.
That's right.
But in Chicago, because everyone is such a victim to their circumstances, it's a heightened rate of crime there.
You told me that when we were coming over here, you told me that you had an opportunity to go to a lot of different places.
Yes.
In high school, you actually moved around quite a bit. And there were some people who were afraid to leave their neighborhoods. Give us a feel for what it was like growing up for you.
Growing up for me, it was difficult seeing kids my age not doing the things that I was doing. Like, I was very productive. I was always doing something, always moving around, because we moved a lot in my family, from house to house, neighborhood to neighborhood, school to school. I was seeing that some kids in my school, they wouldn't know anything about outside of that neighborhood. And that just really, to me, it seems like that would be a reason. You know, everyone's falling a victim to their circumstance. No one knows about what's going on around them because everybody's so confined. And Chicago is very segregated. People are just split as far as school goes, even the school systems. Right now, the public schools and charter schools are having a hard time. There are more charter schools going up and more public schools being shut down.
Did you go to mostly public schools? Okay, and your passion and this thing called the spoken word that you do, how did that develop?
In a charter school, actually. I was in a charter school for freshman year, and because there was no outlet for me to express my art or express myself, I had started writing poetry just like in little small places in the backs of my notebooks. But then I transferred my sophomore year to a public school, and there was a big poetry association. My notebook just stumbled across the poetry coach one day, and she just pulled me in.
Okay. And you know what? You told me something else, and I don't want to tell your story, but tell our audience about how you became, or your group became, like number one in this national competition, and the name of that.
Well, we've gotten quite a big name for ourselves in the Louder Than a Bomb community. Louder Than a Bomb is a big poetry competition. It's international. But majority of it is held in Chicago, actually at Columbia. And so we perform there a lot, and there are actually only 7 performers, me being the only female performer in our group. But we've gotten so much popularity in the competitions and won so much based off of just the subjects that we approach. We approach, because in the competition, we're actually like the only African-American kids involved. So we're getting to share the African-American view of everything.
And you know what? I thought the spoken word thing was mostly of African-American cultures, but you're saying in your competition, it's not necessarily so.
No, not at all.
Well, you know what? We're going to take a break. But while we're taking a break, because not only do you do spoken word, you also have a beautiful voice.
Yes.
And I want our audience to listen to that, okay? Don't go away, but while you're listening, Just listen to her beautiful voice. I liken her to Erykah Badu, or maybe even greater.
Now tell me through your music, dog, what really draws you to me? Don't have to be so frank, ain't no shame in your game, roll your dank now, baby. Beauty's in the eyes of the beholder. But beauty is for any man who will take the time to know.
Ocean, that was simply beautiful.
Thank you.
And you're 19 years old?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. So I mentioned Erykah Badu. Tell me, really, do you pattern yourself after her at all? And if so, why?
I actually do. She's actually probably one of my #1 artists right now. I like how unique she is and how open about who she is, that she is. I like how different her music is. Her music's not like everyone else's. There's always a message behind it. Even as far as the production goes, it's something just weird about the sound waves, and I really like that. So she is a big influence in my music.
Okay, today, your generation and all of us are facing some very hard times. What are some of your thoughts about what you see happening in the culture today?
Really, one of the things that I'm really noticing that I think is beautiful is that Black people are starting to own their Blackness. Froze are coming back, everybody's going natural.
Right.
I think it's real beautiful, and that does inspire my music a lot. A lot of my music is about loving yourself and things like that, and I'm seeing that that's not just a trend. At first when I saw it, I was like, oh, this is a trend. But then I'm like, no, people are really loving themselves, and I think that's really cool. However, with that, there is also other things that aren't so loving. Right, they aren't so positive.
Right. Well, you know what? One thing you said in the car, you said, we have to own up to some of the problems that we have, although some problems are inflicted upon us.
Right.
Give us your train of thought.
As far as when we fall victim to our circumstances, I keep saying this because it's happening to everyone, and this is the reason that things are happening. When we fall victim to our circumstances, we often blame our circumstances, but we can't just blame the circumstances because, like with me growing up, I was able to actually move around in my neighborhood. I took it into my own hands to move around in Chicago and learn different things about different people. But some people I'm noticing just like to stay to themselves and then are confused about why things are happening to them. Things are happening to you because you aren't taking an initiative to keep those things from happening to you. So I feel like people should really own up to their problems and work on solving them rather than blaming other people for them and expecting someone else to solve them.
That's excellent. As a matter of fact, on that note, will you do some spoken word for us? Okay,
I will.
We're going to do that. Stay tuned. Watch this.
Listen, slaves hum us because we are the sad song. Way in the waters he claims, born by the river I was. My brown face a label making my amazing graces ignored. No rhyme is ever presented to us because we are our whores. No feminism, just against your hypnotism. Every word making you dizzy, dipping and dodging your feelings because I could care less what you think. Especially if you assume that I like pink just because it's the color of my middle part. Skin the color of my heart. Black baby, crack baby, I can be that. But you will never see that. Hit the road. On the pavement, it's never me, Jack. I'm dropping mixtapes like black boys dropping bullet caps. I'm pulling that. Muffin cap back blue if you was hoping for some funny raps. No giggles here. I've learned to grow up. We don't watch no wiggles here. But they still assume my older brother would be childish enough to pop gun. There no cops around if we drop one. They just sit back and eat popcorn. All they daughters singing, fire in the water, but it's fire in our streets. Accidentally keeping the babies warm because we are packing heat. But we really didn't mean to. We really ain't that mean to. Kill nobody in cold blood, but I gotta look out for me too. Cause the link ain't enough. I still got this pocket full of posies, trading bullets for some real. These girls are never giving flowers except in their final hours. Rob you of your items, cops rob us of humanity. Treat us like some animals and drive us to insanity. We got girls popping, just to feel like they got some vanity eye. Enjoy being different. Try making a difference. Put them guns down. We got moms down crying over their children. And don't talk to me like I ain't no wounded mother. I lose my boys once a month, man. I'm just oozing brothers. I wonder why black boys play with black toys in a black night night that make that fright noise. I wonder why mama ride well. Moby Dick and keep us all well. I wonder how I could flip a dime to 225 and no sooner time, no 9 to 5, but maybe a 9. We lacking in the trap. So we mousing, like in housing, like in goods. Work with yourself first so we can make for better hoods. But these old problems, so don't act brand new. We got our sons being risen in their prisons. I'm tired of trying to get in where I fit in where I get in. If that be with a mob of killers, I won't be no driller. Driller hit him where it hurts before to hurt his home first. You gotta understand that there's a struggle for survival. So you gotta always keep your Bible. But understand that that book alone can't even save you from your rivals. They still sending rounds. But don't shoot back. If that trigger finger crack, we'll never be safe and sound. Can't keep it safe by keeping sound. That bit of silence is never sweet. But still let that star burst screaming loud. Speak up and hold it down. P.O.P. And that's that peace.
Hey, that was Ocean. I have a question for you. How can you just do that immediately? With you didn't know necessarily that I was going to ask you to do that, but you chose to do it.
Yeah, I always do that piece because it's very dear to me, because it's very true to my city, and I'm very true to my city. So even in the midst of writing it, I was just thinking about everything that was going on at home. I was actually a senior in high school when I wrote it, and my teammates were going through a lot. And so I was basically expanding on their issues, letting them know that I see them, I hear them. They're not just blind to everybody. Because I know one of my teammates, actually, think of him as my brother. He falls victim to everything. And I just wanted him to know that I feel him, I see it, and that his other peers see it, and it's not just being ignored. So actually, when I wrote it, I was actually very angry. It was in the midst of, there's another poetry competition called Soapbox. You have to pass Soapbox to get to Louder Than a Bomb.
Okay.
And I really did not want to do Soapbox. Because my senior year, I was into so much other stuff. So my poetry coach, she said, can you just do this for me, please? And I was just like, oh, okay, I'll do it. So I was writing it because I was just trying to get it over with. But then while I was just trying to get it over with, my actual thoughts were provoking me. Like, there were things that were really just on my mind that I didn't even know were on my mind.
Wow, okay.
And as soon as I picked up my pen, and then like the anger mixed with the situations just sitting there and just rotting in my brain, they just all spilled all over the paper.
What do you want to do in the future?
I actually want to be a poetry coach. I'm a wordsmith. Words are just in my heart. And I love kids and I love to teach, and that's my favorite thing to do. So that's why I'm an English major with the concentration in education. And so I want to do that.
I want to thank you again, and that spoken word was just off the chain, if I can say that. And thank you for coming back. And you said you will come back to Smiles TV Talk
Yes.
Show? Okay. And we have you on tape, like I tell everybody, so we can roll the tape back. And you said
Yep.
yes. I want to thank you for tuning in to Smiles Television Talk Show. You know, this season is going to be great. We have a lot of exciting things happening. I want to thank our guest, Mr. Tommie Van, and then we thank Angela for allowing Tommie to come, and the whole family. And Ocean, such a beautiful name, and so much warmth and wisdom inside. Remember, only what you do for Christ will last.